Welcome to the Insight Meditation community of Charlottesville, Virginia. You can find all of our program offerings and information about our Sangha at www.imeditation.org. We meet weekly on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, currently on the Zoom platform for meditation and a Dharma talk given by one of our teachers. We also meet daily at noon Eastern Time on Zoom for sitting practice. We hope you can join us.
Throughout the ages, contemplatives of all stripes, they've endeavored to articulate what is sometimes you hear called the awareness of awareness, or great natural perfection, or the one taste, or non-duality, or God consciousness, or pure consciousness, or divine presence, or flow, or simply being. That's just sharing a few of the monikers that are pointing in the same direction. And conceptualizations and practices that point in that direction, and attempted articulations of this experience, you can find them in, well, I found them in every religion that I paid attention to, especially in any of the mystical wings of any of the religions. You'll readily find some articulation of this. And if any of you have explored the world of hallucinogenic plant medicines, or the world of synthetic chemical creations that alter the mind, you'll find similar descriptions of those experiences, kind of dovetailing with the mystical experiences in various religions. It's pretty common. So tonight and next Tuesday, we'll be exploring this natural awareness, to use that term. And so I'll want to bring forward a series of techniques to help point the way. And it's really pointing the way to what you might consider your birthright, which is a relaxed resting in a completely profound intimacy with all creation. And it's an organic phenomena. And I'll bet that everybody here this evening, you've all had moments of this experience. There's a lot of different gateways. And if you think back in your life, I guarantee you'll come up with those series of those moments. And two early childhood experiences stick with me. I was a sleepwalker as a child. I would do all kinds of things. The more benign things, I'd go down in the basement and I'd curl up in the dog's bed, or I might go to the refrigerator and dump everything out on the floor, all asleep, and feed the dog. That was one of my favorite sleepwalking things. And I'd be dead asleep on the floor. So they'd have to lock the doors of the house, and they also locked me in my room. And I'd lie in bed and I'd stare at this little brass turning knob on this sconce light on the wall. And I can still see it right now. It had little grooves in it. It was very small, and if you twisted it too much, it would fall off and you'd have to screw it back on. But I entrained myself to just relax on the bed and look at that. And I guess I must have been somewhere between the ages of 3 and 5 when I first began doing that, resting my attention on that little knob on the lamp. It would soothe me in some way, and I would drop into something that I now understand is somewhere on the continuum of samadhi. I loved it. I felt serene and I can remember not feeling so bound by my little body. And I repeated this, kind of this resting of my gaze on that little knob many, many times over my early years. Another marker experience that I had was as a teenager, and I was, getting more and more curious and fascinated by the big questions. I mean, what in the world was this life? Why was I even alive? And for some reason that escapes me now, I thought it might be interesting to go by myself to 6 a.m. Catholic Mass during each of the 40 days of Lent. And the church was about a mile away, so it was a nice little walk. It was very quiet at that hour. And the church um, was candle lit at that point, and the priest was kind of speaking in Latin in a rhythmic cadence, and I found that completely enthralling. I had no idea what he was saying, but I found the whole environment as enthralling. And there weren't many people that showed up for 6 a.m. Mass for 40 days in a row, and all of them were old people. You know, they were very earnest practitioners. And in the town I grew up in New Jersey, everybody who was there was all Italian, Irish, or Polish ethnicity. Many of them being first generation immigrants. But boy, they were dead serious in their praying. No pun intended about dead serious, but they were very serious. And it wasn't at all like Sunday Mass. And my experience of Sunday Mass growing up is that everyone was all gussied up and the perfume was overwhelming. And everybody was just kind of watching everybody else. And I didn't see too many people trying to drop into prayer. But these old folks on those mornings, uh, in their own way, they were digging deep into the mystery. And that fascinated my teenage self. And similarly to focusing on that little knob in the sconce in my room, some days I'd feel myself getting softer, more permeable, kind of melting into that sacred space, the candlelight, the cadence in Latin, all these people really creating a relational field of something, you know. I felt kind of in a way love soaked. I mean, I'd come out of there and I'd be in love with everything. I was content, and I'd walk to school. I, I I didn't have words for what was happening, but I kept coming back for a number of years during those 40 days of Lent, and until the roar, the deafening roar of my later teenage hormones drowned out everything, and so there wasn't going to be any going to Mass at that point. So another brief experience I remember. It was supportive in its own way. I guess I was a sophomore in college. It was 1968. I was at school in Florida, and I was invited by a couple of friends of mine to mash up and eat some morning glory seeds. Yes, morning glory seeds, heavenly blues and pearly whites. I remember it distinctly. And that night we wandered into a local nature reserve, mostly swamp, but some forest. And we spent the night kind of walking around there, and it was starlit, and the wind was blowing, and the trees were moving. I felt like there was no me, just a complete merging with all of nature. I can remember that night as if it happened last night. It was like it was a union with everything. And so experiences like that day in the swamp, those childhood remembrances, I think they propelled my lifetime interest in contemplative practice and thought. I mean, hallucinogens were not the answer for me, but they were pointers in a direction. And so when we drop below the turbulence of the senses and all the perceptual activity. I mean, what is the essence of it all? What's the human essence, or the essence of everything? Are we all part of the very same essence? Is everything in creation part of this very same essence? So, and how can we, when these experiences happen to us, or we fall into them, it's hard to describe. I described it a little bit before as intimacy, a deep intimacy with all things, not a trite phrase, but an actual merging. It's sensing. I mean, it's a sense of the collapsing of your personal separate identity with the entire everything, cosmos. That sense of being that you have as a witness or a seer of things out there vanishes completely for a moment, or maybe longer. And instead, you kind of feel yourself to be whatever the phenomena is you are attending to. You don't see anymore. You don't see anymore the tree, the flower, the mountain, or the trash can as something separate from you. You are the tree, the flower, the mountain, the trash can. When you're hearing a bird call or a car passing by, you're literally merge with that bird song and the car sound, and that thing, whatever you're experiencing, that evaporates right along with this sense of self for some moments. In that moment, it's no longer experienced as an object, and it's no longer experienced as separate from you. The tree, the flower, the mountain, the trash can. Everything is experienced as a kind of vibrant but empty experience, empty of a defined separate self or other object. What happens in those moments is that the awareness is no longer split into an experiencer and the thing that is experienced. There's just pure experience with no divisions, no separations, and it's boundaryless. It's experience itself. It's without a subject or object. Without a seer or a seen. It's the essence of natural awareness, or non-duality, God consciousness, any of those monikers. And these days are amazing. I hope you've been able to get outside and move around. I mean, the air is crisp, clean. I mean, it's just perfect to be outside in. And I'm blessed to still be able to kind of run in my advanced age, although it's barely a jog. It's more like a happy slog. I go happy slogging at my age. And when I'm moving along, I play with moving my attention from whatever phenomena has called my attention to the pure, radiant, transparent awareness that knows it. It could be just simply the touch of my feet hitting the ground. What is the awareness that knows that? Kind of beginning with that experience, that sensation, and then what knows it? Just kind of a slight turn of attention. Or it could be the activation of all the leg muscles, the ligaments, the bones. Or maybe it's the increasing work of the lungs and the increasing heart rate. Or it could be the touch of the breeze. Or it could be the sweat starting to run. And so it's kind of interesting. It's just a gentle easing and adjusting of attention to what is knowing, awareness itself. And in that moment, it's interesting, thought can stop and everything can open to everything. A moment of the purest peace, happiness, love, beauty, just in a moment. So somehow, in many different ways, all of us as Homo sapiens can fall into this great natural perfection here and then. It's our capacity to know this directly. The essence of everything is not anything that has to be discovered outside of us or beyond. It doesn't have to be cultivated or chased after. It is always present. Although admittedly, it's veiled a lot of the time by the activities of our senses, busyness of all our perceptions. But there are ways to enhance the probability of this realization being known. Ways to make it more of a default beingness. And so I thought we'd do another different reflection that may help point the way. And this what I'm going to offer here, it has a little bit of a Dzogchen flavor for those of you who are familiar with those Tibetan practices. Some of it's drawn from the work of Michael Taft, who was a longtime Shinzen Young student and now a teacher. It also has a sensibility that's shared by many indigenous cultures, namely that everything has consciousness. There isn't anything that doesn't have consciousness, is a somewhat common indigenous sensibility. So let's try this out for a few minutes. And to begin, take a few moments. Take maybe those nice 3 long breaths and full inhales and full exhales, and just settle back in to this exploration. Now gently open your eyes and gaze at something in your environment, some object. It could be a piece of art, a chair, a table, a lamp. It doesn't matter what it is. But allow the soft gaze to take in that object. Now here's the indigenous perspective. You're taking in that object, and notice, if you can, that the object is awake. Not that it's an entity so much or anything like that, but simply that it's shining with awareness. Just allow that possibility for now. Play along. Allowing that perspective and feeling into the wakefulness of that object that you've chosen. In fact, allow for that object to be as much aware of you as you are aware of it. And feel that sense of the object being aware of you at the same time that you are aware of it. Now leave that object and pick something else in the room, another object. And notice the same thing like the first one. And allow for this object also to be shining with awareness. Allow for it to be awake and aware and noticing you. And at the same time, you're noticing it. Feel into that, the felt sense of that object being aware of you at the same time you are aware of it. It's a kind of interpenetrating, merged, relaxed awareness. A moment of merged awareness. Now move your attention once more to another object, a third object. And again, open to the possibility or open to the fact that it is shining in awareness. It's awake, aware, and noticing you. And at the same time, you're noticing it. You're aware of it. And feel that relaxed, merged experience. Now, notice the entire visual field at once with a soft, open gaze. And notice the entirety of this kind of visual screen as one massive field of awareness. This field of awareness is aware of you at the same time you are aware of it. It's awake, gazing softly at you as you are gazing softly at it. Now, notice that the awareness that is aware of you is not different from the awareness with which you're noticing it. It's actually all one field of awareness. No matter what you're aware of, that's also aware with the same awareness. It's one awareness. It's all there is. Now just choose the farthest object in the field of your view. Of course, it's dark. You might not be able to see very far outside, but if you're looking out a window or something, pick something as far the farthest away object you can find. And again, notice that it has the same awareness as your awareness. Your innermost awareness is the same. In the field of awareness, there's absolutely nothing separate. It's one wakefulness, one experience, one. And in the space of this unitary awareness, there's only intimacy and connection. Everything is awake and aware of everything in the one awareness without separation. Everything is known and nothing is hidden. Everything's open and shared. Everything is soft, aware, sensitive. Okay, that may have resonated, or maybe you think you've entered crazy town, but there are dozens of little ways or looks or glimpses um, that might softly unhinge the doors of natural awareness for you to open them. This is just one. And over time, we'll explore a lot of them. And I'm absolutely confident if you get interested in this, that you'll find your own basket of filled with a number of pointing out instructions that will speak to you. Okay. All right. I'll just finish up with the my favorite chant that ends the evening, the anicca chant. Anicca being impermanence. Anicca vata sankhara upadeva ya dhammino upajitva nirajante tasum upasama sukha. All conditioned things are impermanent. They arise and pass away. Understanding this deeply is the greatest happiness. Peace.